In this unit, I want to take a look at the shopping experiences in Shopware 6 together with you. With these, you can design dynamic and content-rich pages that combine commercial elements like product lists, categories, and filters with engaging media such as images and videos. So instead of offering your customers a static shopping platform, you can use shopping experiences to sell real experiences, which may lead your customers to make purchasing decisions more quickly. Let's set a goal together. For our shop, which is all about guitars, we want to highlight a guitar series using a shopping experience. What we call it doesn't really matter. Let's just go there first and take a closer look at everything. So, we can go to our content and then to shopping experiences. Here, we can already see the ones that are already available. You can filter them on the left side depending on the type, and you can also sort them at the top. Of course, we want to create a new layout for our guitar series now, so I click on Create New Layout up here, and now I'm first asked what kind of page I actually want to create. Let's go through the different types from left to right. Let's start with the shop pages, which are basically intended to represent service pages, like your terms and conditions, for example. So, this isn't particularly interesting for this video. Next, we have the landing pages. These are essentially shop pages that can be accessed via their own URL, and they offer you a wide range of design options that you can then combine with marketing features. So, exactly what I mentioned at the beginning. On one hand, we have the classic commerce elements that we use to sell our products, like a product slider, for example. And on the other hand, we can link images and videos to all of this to tell a story about our product, which would be a perfect fit for something like a guitar series, for example. Next, we have the listing page. These are basically the home pages of each category. There, we first have a standard product listing, but we also have the option to dynamically add texts and so on to this home page. Lastly, we have the product page. I think everyone is familiar with product detail pages, and the product page can also be customized a bit. We can then assign these to individual products so that the changes only apply to those specific products. Since the landing page is best suited for our example, I'll select that one now. Next, we'll be asked to choose a section type. We can create a landing page with a sidebar, for example, if we want to include a category navigation on the left or right side. Or we can use the full width, which is of course a bit better for storytelling, so to speak, if you want to really direct the entire focus of the customer to our content. For this reason, I'm going to choose the full width option now. Next, I'm asked what I want to name my layout, and in this case, I'll just call it training and then click on Create Layout. Now, let's take a look together at all the options we have here. The first thing you'll notice at the top is that we have different viewports we can select. That means, for example, we can say we want to design the shopping experience for a tablet, a smartphone, a desktop, and so on, and then we can also specifically adjust the respective content for each one. So, here we first find the different sections. These are the large areas where we can place our elements. We'll get into that in more detail in just a moment. We have the option to always add more sections underneath, and they will be displayed one below the other exactly as you see here in the preview. For example, here we also have the option to choose either the full width or a section with a sidebar. Just to illustrate, we can go ahead and select the section with the sidebar here, and you can already see, okay, now we have two areas here and one large one over there. But how does the whole thing actually work in detail? Let's first go up here to the settings, and here we could, for example, edit the layout name again, add CSS classes if needed, and also change the layout type afterwards in case we clicked the wrong one earlier. Of course, that's not the case here, so we can go straight to the next tab by clicking on the plus symbol. And here we can already see several options. For example, we could add text here. That means I could simply take this element and drag and drop it down here, for instance, because I want to have my information displayed in text form here later. I can also just edit it easily. That means I can simply click on it and, for example, type in test here, and it will be displayed like that right away. Back on the Elements tab, we can also select the block categories up here, and there are plenty of them. So we can also mark favorites here using this heart icon, right? So if I click on this now, it will later be shown again under favorites. It's pretty cool if you want to give your shop a more consistent look, so you always present the same image. Let's move on to the images section. As we can see, there's quite a lot here. Yeah, we can create sliders, image grids, use different columns to display everything, or just have a single image in full width. I could just drag this in here now, and it would be displayed exactly like that. Here again, I have the option to adjust things, for example, by simply clicking on it and then clicking the gear icon. And here I can go in and change things like the display mode, the size, and so on. I could also add a link. As you can see, there are a lot of options you can explore here. Let's go back to the elements again. Next, we also find videos. That means we can very easily embed YouTube or Vimeo videos. This is definitely very cool. For example, for our guitars, if you want to show how they're made or give other examples, you can easily do that here using the video format. Next, we also have elements that combine text and images in one. That might also be quite interesting. For example, here you have text placed directly on an image, so you don't have to edit the image just to add text over it. Then there are various commerce elements here, like a product slider, for example. So that means I could say I want to have products in here later, and then the customer can click through them. For example, you could display the guitar series here as a dynamic product group. You also have the option to give the whole thing a title here. We can manually select products, or use dynamic product groups, as I just mentioned, and we also have display options here that we can choose from. If we go back again, we can also see the classic sidebar here, which we could have inserted to, for example, display the navigation for our category. We can create forms. For example, I could add another full width section here and say, oh, we can ignore that. So then we could say, here we have a contact form where the customer can write to us. Maybe because they have a specific question about the guitar or about the entire series, and so on. You see, there's already a lot here, and we can also integrate our own HTML elements. That means if I add another section here. So as you can see, you can really take this pretty far. I could also insert custom code here if the element I want isn't available. Of course, Shopware is complaining at this point and telling me that some of the blocks aren't configured properly because I haven't entered any data here. So, for example, I haven't set up the form or the code here correctly, and I also haven't added any products to the slider. Of course, these are all things you need to do if you were planning something specific. We also have the option to edit blog settings. We can also rename them. We can add background colors, images, and we can also define spacing in the layout or add CSS classes. As you can see, you can really do a lot with our CMS tooling, with the shopping experiences. There's really a ton you can do. You also have the option here. Now it's giving me a warning again, to rearrange all the elements. For example, I could say that I want the image cover to be down here. You also get an overview of all the layouts here. I could also just insert the HTML element up here. This navigator is sometimes really useful when you're creating very large shopping experiences, just to help you find your way around. Lastly, we have the layout assignment. Of course, I can assign it. That's really up to you whether you want to do it here or rather directly in the categories, because you can do it there as well. So if I were to go to the categories in the menu on the left, I could also assign it directly there under the Layout tab. Okay, and I'd say it's best if you take some time now to get familiar with the different types and also how you can design the various pages. For example, it would make sense to create a winter blues sale for the landing pages, with a discount of up to 30% on the guitars included there. You can also try adding videos, images, and so on. And of course, also add commerce elements so that, with the action buttons, you can actually sell the products. You can also work with time-limited discounts, and so on. Next, we have the category pages. There you could see if you might want to divide things into logical groups. For example, electric guitars, vintage guitars, and so on. And lastly, product pages. There you could pick out a very specific guitar, like the Legacy 500, and then provide detailed content for the product detail page. For example, also with videos, whatever works, you know. So just go through a few examples in your head, click through them, and really take a look at it. That usually helps the most. And that's it for this unit.